What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and right now, my guest is a longtime friend. I mean, our careers kind of mirror each other in terms of when we started doing this. Actually, you predated. I mean, you've had fights with AJ McKee and whatever. You're a longtime veteran, but I'm used to seeing you on the California scene here. He is El Savage, Abraham Nava. Abraham, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. We just finished wrestling practice right now. Showered real quickly, came in, logged in, and ready for this little chat.
Well, we appreciate that you doing that for us here, and my goodness, I mean, you've got a cool little living situation, right? Where your gym is also where you have like a dormitory, an apartment there, and then your last fight, happened at the gym. So, I mean, you didn't have to go very far. You didn't have to commute.
Yeah, you know what? The hardest thing was like for about 3 days, the day before the weigh-in, the day of the weigh-in, and the day of the fight, we're just sitting around the apartment all day doing nothing. And then we go upstairs. We go to the gym around 6. We got to get everything pre-prepped. You got to be there by 6. We go upstairs to the fight, and the staging area was right in front of the boxing gym. So today in the afternoon on Mondays we do sparring, and you gotta wait for your turn. So you're kind of just like standing around the boxing ring for like 20, 30 minutes while everyone's taking their turn. Then you go your turn to throw some blows. And it kind of felt like a Monday afternoon because we're just standing in front of the boxing ring, getting ready to go to the cage. So it was a lot less pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from fighting on like the SoCal scene here, fighting LA traffic, LA to San Bernardino for a fight, LA to San Diego for a fight, or whatever. And literally on weigh-ins, you get a call 20 minutes before the fighter is supposed to be on scale, and you're like, yo, me and my coach are stuck in traffic, you know?
You know that happened to us so many times. One time we got to the event, and one of the teams got upset that we got there late, and the promoter was like, "No, no, it's okay, okay. They're on Oxnard time."
Yeah. Hey, you know
So
what? I can get with it. I'm half Fijian. We have Fiji time or island time, where if something starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you tell us to be there at noon, and we might be there at 6:30.
exactly, because also a Mexican thing. We're like constantly always late, never on time. My coach is
Hey,
actually I'm 2 walls away from the wrestling mat, and I'm always like 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, and the coach is like, "I don't get it. You live 5 feet away from here. How are you always late?" He goes, "I'm gonna have to kick you out of the gym if you keep showing up late." I was like, "I don't get it." And you know what? It's just
hey,
kind of a bad Mexican habit, I think.
yeah, and it's also fashionably, unless it's like a job interview or whatever, you come in with fashion points if you don't show up. Nobody wants to be the first one at the party.
Yeah, it's like you look like a total dork. And you know what? I like to take my time when I get ready, especially up in the mornings. Drink my coffee, go through my YouTube videos, do whatever I want to do. I want to get there on my time, be ready because at the end, it's an art. You gotta be comfortable. You gotta be relaxed. You gotta be in your zone, not in someone else's zone, for you to like really optimize what you're doing.
No, 100%. And especially as a combat sports athlete, the attention to detail, whether it be boxing, especially MMA, right? You've got boxing, you've got
Mm-hmm.
wrestling, you've got jujitsu, you've got takedown defense, all of these things, your cardio, weight cutting. There's so many things to kind of keep in check and what have you that, I mean, everything, it has to be a great attention to detail. And it's not this like McDonald's type deal where you can just drive in, get what you need and get out. No, it takes attention to detail because one small change of direction or change of focus, I mean, you get head kicked in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happened to me. I got one time. It's always happens to me too when I'm a high paced kind of person. I'm always moving, and sometimes we go like, okay, let's just take it slow. Take it slow. I broke my nose during practice going slow. I guess because I'm more stiff, so I'm like moving real stiff. And someone threw a soft kick to the face, but it was a knee and it just broke my nose completely. I was out for like maybe half a year, I think, because it took a while for it to like completely heal.
Dang, yeah.
So.
So, either way, it's kind of a tough, it's a tough run, But Jesse Velasquez,
Hmm.
he said, he's always the guy that is early, and I usually set up to help because of it. He likes being early. So, a different methodology for fighting, and that's what I love about fighting is like everybody from your coaches to the promoter to the fighter to the cut man and woman, like the commission, everybody has their own take of what this thing is supposed to look like, whatever. And the fans, to me, it's a renaissance because, all of these different minds kind of coming together to, focus on the presentation of the fight, presentation of the promotion and all that, and the fans end up winning because all of these collective minds are there to kind of make sure that the best possible show for them happens.
Yeah, it's a collage of things. It's like enticing to the sight in a way. The way everything is just meshed up together in like more of a poetic form. And
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So it's it's cool, and it's worked out. I mean, the last time we talked to you, we were at like Coliseum Gladiator at the LA Coliseum and what have you, right? So and now you're
yeah,
a 2-0 pro. That's got to be cool, right?
yeah. You know what? I wanted, like I said, most of last year, I fought. I was getting ready to fight again. Started. I was already looking for another fight. I break my nose, and I'm like gone for most of the time. And then in April, I was getting ready to fight on. I was scheduled to fight April 3rd. So around May 17th, May 15th, they're like, hey, the fight got canceled. So I'm already getting close to making weight, and then I just got canceled. And then I'm out for another few months, and then like, again they're like, hey, we have the fight. And then I was told at a barbecue because the whole way the event rolls out and with the promotion and everything. Have you ever seen the movie? Was a movie Semi Pro with Will Ferrell?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How they have, yeah, like how they're all always together. There's the announcers. Like everybody knows everybody. That's what it kind of felt like down here. They were watching the fights at a coach's house, and the promoter and the UWC people are there, and they're like, yeah, they're drinking beers. They're just talking about how they're planning this out, and then they're like, hey, like you down to fight, right? And I'm like, yeah, and then they're like 135, and I thought they said July 8th, and turns out it was July 3rd. So I'm getting scared, ready to cut my weight. I already know the time period, and then like I'm like a week and a half into it, and someone goes, "Nah, it's April 3rd. It's July 3rd, not July 8th." I'm like, "Are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they were like, "We looked up the date." I'm like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "I gotta put it in overdrive to catch up the weight because I make weight usually on the very last end of it." So like it threw me off. Those extra 5 days made a world of difference, and it's just like, yeah, it got pretty hectic after a while.
Yeah, I mean, you go from thinking you have 5 days, and then ended up only like maybe a day or two. Like, well, I mean, what is that
Yeah.
mindset? I mean, what were you thinking?
I caught it a little earlier. Like I said, I was the way I started dieting and cutting my weight. I've done it so many times. I already know at what time, like how long it's gonna take me to make it. So I was like, shoot. I'm like, I was counting on those 5 days, and I just started running extra, doing a bunch of extra things, and then I started having some stomach problems from doing it. I had like some gas buildup or something happened. So I had actually not trained the last week. I could have made weight on Monday when I checked my weight. I got down to 139, and I'm like I'm still pretty fresh full. I can like if I were to want to make weight tomorrow morning, I could, but I kept cutting, and I couldn't. I had to cut all the water the morning of because I couldn't do anything the day before.
Wow.
So, but I made it, and it worked out. Everything worked out. worked out. So I was honestly, I was still having stomach problems when the fight came around. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come in, come out as quickly as possible. I don't want to like get hit in the gut or something else happening. So I went to the doctors afterwards. There was like some buildup of gas or something in there that was really like. They gave me some tea and some medical things. I don't know. Everything worked out
Hey, it
fine though.
worked.
Everything.
It totally
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. So you know.
Now, obviously, I mean, you're originally from, the Ventura area, right? And you moved down to Tijuana. What prompted that move?
You know what? I wanted to get my pro license and I wanted to fight, and I didn't really have anyone to train with up north either. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go see what I find. So I had a hunch. You ever seen the book, The Game of Life and How to Play it? It
Yeah,
says you
yeah.
never go back on a hunch. Yeah, it said never go back on a hunch. I'm like, I have a hunch. I have a hunch that there's something out there for me. I came down here. My dad, I never been to Mexico, so my dad lived out in TJ, and I went. I stayed with him for about a month, month and a half maybe, and I was just looking around for gyms, and for some reason I was friends with Silviana, some Argentinian fighter from here, and I just seen her post a picture of her and like everyone just flexing on Facebook. You know the after practice flex picture. And I'm like, you know what? That looks like a bunch of good bodies to train with. I hit her up like, hey, where's the gym at? I found it. I came on a Tuesday because Tuesday they do sparring. And I just seen everyone just going at it like balls to the wall, just going at it. I'm like, this is definitely where I want to train at. And I came in the next day, and I just been training here ever since. And it's a lot of UFC fighters, a lot of high level things. The jiu-jitsu is just crazy over here. Is just another level.
And that's a really cool scenario that you got where you're living there, because you hear whether it's TriStar in Montreal or American Top Team in Florida, what they're doing is basically investing in their fighters. Like, hey, if you're from out of town and you want to train here, we've got dormitories for you. So it's cool that your gym in TJ has that for you. So you don't, I mean, really, you can be the student of the game. You don't have to walk like a couple feet to the mats and, start sparring. If you have a particular combo that you want to figure out or whatever, you don't have to do. You just open the door. There you go. Here's a heavy bag and, work it out.
Yeah. You know what? That's one thing the coach does do a lot. Coach Raul, that he's the owner of the gym. He's always looking out for his fighters. He's always investing into his fighters. Like he has a successful business, but he doesn't care about business. All he cares about is fighting. He's like just fight, fight, fight. Like what can I do for my fighters so my fighters can be ready? He wants a UFC belt, and he's just working for that. He invests into it. He invests into the fighters, like you said, and he does give you a good helping hand over here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And especially, and that's what I love about combat sports, where, there are so many. I mean, obviously, there's coaches and fighters that make their sole income from fighting and their, career in the combat sports realm. But a lot of people have other businesses. They work other jobs. I mean, most famously, Stipe Miocic is a firefighter in Cleveland. Shane
Mm-hmm.
Carwin, the former UFC interim champion, was like a chemist. You're starting to see a
Yeah.
lot of people. I mean, it has always been the case where a lot of people who, they've had success in other businesses and they know how things work, and they bring all of those experiences to their run in combat sports, and the community as a whole are better for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, success is a habit. So if you can, no matter what you do it correctly, and you do it to the best of your abilities, you're always gonna come out on top. If you do a puzzle, you got to finish the puzzle. You start something, you got to finish it. It just becomes a habit of sorts. That's why like a lot of fighters that like they have their degree in something. They went to school and they finish it. Like, and I feel like if you want to succeed in this sport, that's the habit you gotta develop certain habits to have. Um, and I guess that's like you said, that's one of them. Like these people are successful in other fields. Whatever they do, they succeed in it. Whatever they do, they succeed.
Yeah, failure is not an option. It's a champion's mindset, you know.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, Kobe Covington, people don't like him, but I mean, he finished his college degree. He finished whatever he did. He got to the top. Usman, another guy, just work ethic. Wherever he does, he pushes it. And that's what we got to do to get to the top.
Yeah, yeah, and again, like, we saw it obviously this past Saturday at Fight Island, and we're seeing it, and it's not just don't get it twisted. It's not just the people on the top echelon. Imagine the guys like you, guys and girls like you who may have to work one or two, if not three jobs, have a family, you've got your wife, maintain a semblance of a home life, and then still train 5 to 6 times a week, if not more. So, it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, I was listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's talking about how he used to like go to speech classes, accent classes, college, work at. He was a manager at a construction site, and still managed to get like 5 6 hours in the gym every day. I mean, the guy's ethic is crazy. I mean, but look how famous. Who doesn't know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is? My mom never knows who anyone is, and she will tell you who Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
It's again, it's incredible. The and usually, the people that have uh, achieved success in other endeavors and what have you, they know,
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, they know what works and what doesn't work, and they essentially bring that what works here to MMA, and even they take stuff that might not work here and apply it into their own business, and are successful in that endeavor, and it's funny, the Riz, Aaron Vincent said a warrior's strongest weapon is his mind, and it's forged by willpower, which is exactly what you were alluding to. So thank you, Riz. Thank you for that. But yeah, man. Well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
talk about a champion's mindset, a warrior's mindset. Obviously, we're in this kind of COVID era situation and what have you. Just before we logged on here, it was announced that the state of California is essentially in lockdown again. So, what is the status of things there in Tijuana?
You know what? In Tijuana, it's like they didn't even care about like the quarantine. Like, if I were to go out right now, there's businesses running. There's a taco stand in every corner. They just shut down a little earlier. That's all. It's just instead of being up all night. Like I live in the center of Tijuana, so I'm about 2 blocks away from Tijuana Main Street, Revolucion, where all the tourism comes from. And all it is just closed down a little earlier in the day. But businesses are still running, and it kind of in a sense like they don't really care. That's a, so that's probably why
Wow.
Tijuana has such a high in cases. If I go over there to the rural area where my dad lives, I mean the little the swami. There's swamis everywhere here. Like Tijuana just riddled with swamis, and they're still packed. They're still full. They're still like on full blast.
Wow, and that's the kind of crazy thing about all this kind of situation, and seeing how different areas kind of respond to the crisis, or not crisis at hand, which funny enough, I mean, as it comes to your fight, you're fighting for UWC Mexico. Did Was there any kind of logistical challenges, to kind of, obviously you were in the gym, and in the gym is where the fight took place. Did you see any kind of logistical challenges with the situation that's going on, or was it just kind of business as usual?
You know what? The gym actually closed down. The fighters, I mean, obviously, we still train and stuff, but see, where I'm living at, there's two other guys living here, and we kind of little separate a little section. And if you go to there's another house where the coach's house is at. There's an entire complex of apartments just full of fighters. That complex belongs to the owner, the gym, Coach Raul. So we're always together. It's like so like if one of us already sick, we're already in contact with each other. Everyone just lives in a giant big old ball apartment, and so we were training. We were training. There was no other people coming into the gym though. That was it. And I mean, on his part, that's not bad. That's not good for business. But as far as fighting goes, since we do live at the gym and we have access to the gym at all times, it was kind of just like keep on training, keep on fighting, and things run regularly for us.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's. I mean, that's good, and it's really cool. And a huge shout out to Coach Raul because I mean, being able to have the means to kind of take care of your fighters and knowing the needs, and meeting them and forging kind of a community within itself to welcome all fighters from all walks of life, just to go like, what, just train. We've got everything else, all the mandates and everything. We've got it all kind of figured out. You guys just do what you need to do, and we'll handle the rest. That's got to be a huge relief.
Yeah, I mean, we pay rent, but it's not like a huge amount. It's just like I mean, just a little bit of rent we have to pay, and besides that, yeah, he comp almost everything else. He while the gym was shut down, actually there was construction going on the entire time. They built the third floor. They finished building the third floor where the event was at. Actually, it's like straight upstairs above me is where they had the cage, like right above me was where we were having the fights at. And then we had people here, and the people are like, "Yeah, you just hear all the stomping and stomping from the fight going on upstairs."
That's funny because I've got upstairs neighbors, and sometimes it sounds like a stampede of hippos running across my ceiling and what have you. So I'd have to imagine to kind of shower off and whatever, after your fight, you come downstairs and there's still, fights and people coming, whatever. It must have sounded like, a herd of buffaloes kind of going across your ceiling.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds like that here all the time. Like there was a couple guys that they were working at the bars. I worked there for like a couple weeks and like it as one of those bar people. And I felt bad for them because they would work all night, come here, and 7 in the morning, the walls of church shaking. You hear a bunch of stomping, you hear a bunch of music loud going on all day. Right now, because there's not really any classes going on, so it's quiet. But normally, when the gym's running right now, you just hear boom, 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 and the walls shaking. And we work at nighttime, just for you.
Yeah, that had to be an unreal feeling, But when we get a shout out of the way, uh, Happy Lex Seven basically says, "Saludos, dice Oxnard." So, your
Yeah,
home
my
family
boy
from
Alex right there.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
you know what? That's
That's
one thing. It's people from back home. They show a lot of support. I'm like, hey, you know what? I made shirts to sell. Everybody comped one. It's pretty cool. Like, hey, you need anything? They're always concerned and worried about make sure my well being and I'm all well taken care of over here. But I always let them know, I'm pretty well off right now. So, but I do want to thank everybody that supports me. My wife, she's a huge supporter of me. She's always there for me. I mean, I'm cutting weight. She just makes me a huge meal, like a cooler full of food for after weigh-ins. I'm like, I'm not even gonna be able to eat all that food in 3 days, let alone after weigh-ins. But
yeah,
and
the
I think
support.
that's
Or
no,
go
no.
ahead.
You're saying?
I said
No, I
the
was gonna
source,
say I
the
think that
support. Got to have that
yeah,
support.
yeah. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Oftentimes it feels like you're doing it all by yourself, but let me get this. Yeah, but it's your support system that really helps you out, and it's what they say. It's not the 1,000 miles that kills a man; it's the pebbles in his shoes. And sometimes having someone there give you a hand, like really takes away those pebbles in your shoes. And it's like all the little small things that would have normally like killed you are no longer there.
Yeah, that's it. Again, it's often said that the fighter essentially steps into the ring or the cage alone, but it's the what you're not seeing is the community of support, whether that be people making meals, people, like your bosses giving you time off to go and fight, or, your family, buying a t-shirt, buying a ticket, all of these things kind of come together, and that victory, or even just a performance, win, lose, or draw, is the result of all of the love, all of the support that, that comes from that fight camp, comes from, the following of your entire career. And you're standing on the shoulders of so many people, and it's not just your victory, but you share it with so many people.
Yeah, you know what? That does cross my mind a lot. Like this, where I was telling you I was having issues with a weight cut. There was a few times where I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. It was really crippling, the sting that was hanging in my stomach. So I was like, I wasn't sure I was able to do this. But one of my teammates got up. He was cutting weight too, but he stayed up at 3 in the morning to like 5 in the morning with me to like, cause I couldn't handle the pain very well. So he was there morally supporting me. And then in the morning, I went and I worked out for about an hour, and I was still about 2 kilos over. Yeah, it's another thing. Ever since I went to Mexico, I use the kilo system now, no longer the pounds. I'm on the kilo system. And another
Wow.
one of my teammates called me and he goes, "Hey man, like how's your weight and everything?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm 2 kilos over still." And he meets us up. He goes, "Hey, come over to my house. I have a system we can use." So we did this like steam water, like hot shower, like mummy system, and I was able to cut the rest of the weight. But he made sure to go out of his way to help me out. I didn't have to ask him. He just offered, and he was there for me. And oftentimes, like I said, it's a team effort. Like was like you said, you're in there by yourself, but it's your team that gets you there.
Yeah, yeah, and what a cool sacrifice to, have your teammate do that for you, because who knows, just to ease the burden just a little bit, because who knows how much more rough it could have gotten without, him doing that for you. That's got to be incredible, and it's just, again, the best of people, come out in combat sports, and even sometimes the worst. But even the worst people, a lot of times, because there's so much positivity in what goes into everything that's happening, the bad people almost find themselves out, out of the community, before you know it.
Yeah, and oftentimes you attract the people who are like you. So most of the time when I see someone say, "Oh, everyone's so shady, everyone's this, everyone that," I'm like, that person's probably shady themselves, and it's just telling you who they are. And because as far as shadiness goes, like almost everyone I know and I associate myself with is always helpful, always there for you, pretty straightforward, and I don't really deal with too much drama from other people, except for that casual individual that wanders in, like you said. But they kind of tend to filter themselves out. Working my head movement with this fly.
No, it's good. It's good. But that, I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible, And I mean, I wanted to talk to you about the scene there in Mexico, because obviously, when you talk about like Yair Rodriguez, and El Pantera, there's such a new kind of generation of fighters from Mexico that are really staking their claim, and that's a big thing, because the Mexican community, the Hispanic community, has always long since, it's a generational thing. They've always been into boxing. That's almost like a national sport, but it's always been you know kind of a weird deal with MMA. So it's really cool to see that a lot of the Mexican culture are really embracing the sport of MMA, almost like they did boxing, generations ago.
Yeah, you know what? In Tijuana, MMA is a really big deal. We'll go to an event once or twice a month. There'll be a live event to go to watch. So we'll be at the fights. There's one, the Viking fighting, which is more of an amateur venue, and it's just a 7 minute walk from here. So we'll walk 7 minutes on Friday, catch the fight, and then the weekend after that, or 2 days after that, we'll just take a little bus down the street to the bigger venue, and there'll be another event there. And then the month after that, there'll be another two events. So MMA is big in Tijuana. I think it's a I have a feeling that in the future is going to be one of his main financial sources for Tijuana as far as the economy goes. The way is heading this with the events.
Again, that's got to be cool. That there's like a this centralized kind of force, kind of pushing the I guess the next generation of mixed martial artists there in TJ. That's incredible. Now, I want to talk to you about the promotion itself. UWC Mexico, right? That you can catch the entire card on their Facebook page at UWC Mexico or MX UWCMX, their Facebook page. The entire event is on there. Tell us for those that don't know about this particular promotion. Why was this the right move for you to? I mean, other than the fact that it was held at your home gym, but what was the cause for fighting on this card in particular? What are their origins?
As far as the origins, I'm not quite sure. Like I said, they're always around. They're like the local promotion. A lot of the promotions are like that. Like Luke's fighting, the matchmaker here. He was a UFC fighter. He's a trainer here, Henry, and so that's how I got on that card. He scheduled me to fight on. I was gonna go to Monterrey on the 3rd of April, and with UWC, they're literally at the barbecue. They're like you're chatting up with them. They're like they were for weeks, even before they told me, they were like, for weeks they'll be like, hey, we're let's do this. They'll talk about it. They'll talk about it. They were just building hype. And one thing was concerning me is getting as closer to the fight. They were still like, yeah, we're still scheduled. We're still scheduled. And we're like, okay, well, they didn't tell me who I was gonna fight. I'm pretty sure they didn't tell my opponent who he was gonna fight. So I was just training, cutting weight, getting ready. I didn't know who I was gonna fight. I didn't know if the event was gonna happen. They haven't announced anything, so we're just going blind. And it was one of those in the moment things. Like, it's either you risk it and you go for it, or you sit on the sidelines and you live in regret that you didn't do it, that you didn't go for it. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to break. I don't want to say I couldn't do it. Like I was because of the risk, or I don't want to waste my time. So I just kept on training, kept on cutting. I'm like, if this event doesn't go down, the next event will. But I'm gonna fight because I need to fight.
Yeah, man, and the need to fight is, I mean, that's that's it, and the discipline, because a lot of people when they give into temptation, you know, the I guess the result of it, you might gain a couple pounds or what have you, and all that. But I mean, when you get into a ring or a cage, and you literally feel like you feel sluggish and what have you, it's the worst thing, and knowing in your mind, hey, I need to do this, but your body just can't get there.
Yeah, it's, you know what? It's oftentimes the days that I don't feel like doing it that I tell myself, no, no, this. Everyone feels like this. Every single person, Anderson Silva, Henry Cejudo, every top level guy at one point or another, they're like, I don't want to go train today. I don't want to do this, and they must feel like that at least 5, 6 days out of the week, and they still force themselves to do it. And I mean, that's how they get on top. So that goes through my mind. I'm like, if I was one of the best, what would I do in this situation? Is like I'll force myself to do it. Then afterwards, once you're like up, you got all that what's that feeling? What's that chemical you get when you exercise? It's a
Which
certain
one? Like,
chemical that makes you feel like a high. It's like a highest run. You know how dopamine.
like the
That's the
the
word.
toad,
Dopamine.
like the
You
licking
build
of the toad,
dopamine when you work.
like peyote, or
No, 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 no. Yeah, your body builds dopamine when you feel pleasure, when you feel good,
oh yeah,
and
like
then
the adrenaline and all that, right?
yes, yeah, exactly. So afterwards, you're full of like this dopamine, and you feel good. You feel wide awake. You feel better than before you even didn't want to train, and then you're happy you did it. And like when I'm getting ready for a fight, if I don't feel like I'm dead at the end of the day, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I took it easy. Like if I not getting ready for a fight. Like if I'm just doing some casual like training.
Dang, yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's it. It's a that's one of the reasons why some fighters can't step away from the cage or the ring or whatever, because that dopamine rush is unlike any other. You can't replicate it in drinking a beer or doing some other stuff or whatever. It's something that you can only do by pushing yourself to the limit, the absolute limit of what you thought you could do, and then coming away with this experience like, hey, I won, hey, I lost, whatever, I competed, I showed my best self in front of a crowd, and essentially this was the result.
It's funny. There was no crowd, so the walk, we started walkout song to the we walk to the cage. It's a short walk, and then they have this little camera in front of me, and I'm like, do I look at the camera? And then I look to the sides. There was like nothing to look at. Oh, hold on. I wasn't even quite sure which way to look, and I think like even in my, if you will look back at the video, my eyes look cross-eyed because I'm just like lost, and it was weird because I was like, "Oh, what do I do?" I'm like, "What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my eyes? Like, where do I look?" Like, it felt like practice. Like when you're in practice, you kind of just casually walking around, looking and getting ready for the bell to ring. You smack gloves with your training partner, and you go at it. And that's what
Yeah.
it felt like.
Now, I mean, obviously we're in this kind of COVID situation, and this fight happened, without any fans. We've seen UFC do it, we've seen LFA do it, and a couple promotions in Florida. What was that experience like? Obviously you mentioned like your crowd, like, you're used to the roar of the crowd, but all you hear is the boom of the music, and you don't know where to look. But I mean, were there any kind of, I mean, what did you expect versus what ended up happening?
You know what? I was expecting to more tension. I expected it to be more tense. You know how when that tension, that's what I thought was gonna happen. But since we were right next to the sparring gym, where we're like, where we stand around waiting for a boxing match, it kind of brought you back to just a regular afternoon where you were just relaxing downstairs. Like literally, I'll just be down here, watching something on my phone or doing something. 5 minutes to, oh, I gotta go to class. I get myself, go upstairs, wrap up, and then I'm standing next to the boxing ring, just waiting for everyone else to take their turn so I can go box. And it felt like that. It just felt like another day of practice. There was no crowd. There was no people just cheering, go, go, shouting your name, like trying to hype you up. And it was really, really calm. It was made you really feel in your zone, at least for me.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, because I mean, whatever it was, whether it be training, the calm that you put yourself in that kind of like non-tense environment. Well, guess what? It worked because you won that night. How elated, especially with the weight cut. Having this COVID situation happening, having fights, kind of pull out and everything like this, at the beginning of the year. Then you finally got one in and you win. I mean, explain to me your emotional kind of feelings about.
You know what? I mean, I seen this guy. Usually, I'm the smaller guy. Even when I cut weight to 135, and I kill myself to get make the weight. And I'm like, how am I still smaller than this person? I'm like, how do they make weight? They're bigger than me. So this guy was a little smaller than me, and he was just getting underneath me. That's the only thing I was like, I felt like I could have done better, which is keep him at a distance with a jab. The last thing I expected him was to try to get close, because then I was just out wrestle him. And I already knew I could out wrestle him, so I wasn't like too hyped about it. I was like, just another day, and I thought I was gonna be more happy and like, yeah, I finally got the fight, and all I could think about, okay, what's next? Who am I gonna fight next? And when do I have to start training again? And all I could think about is, okay, let's move on to the next step. This happened. It feels good, but now all I can think about is what's next. What's my next
What's
move?
next? Yeah, It's funny that you mentioned what's next because I actually wanted to ask you because obviously the fight stuff is all cool and what have you, but I always like to invite the people to kind of get to know the person right behind the
Yeah.
fighter. Because it's weird. Fighting still has a weird kind of connotation for those who aren't in our community, right? So I kind of wanted
Yeah.
to play this fun little game with you and ask you some questions that aren't about fighting. So stepping out of the
Sure.
cage after your victory, um, obviously this is. I mean, seeing the pictures, right? You were as lean as I ever seen you. You are
Yeah.
usually built like a truck, like a fire hydrant, right? Like a brick shit house,
Yeah.
right? And you cut down so low. So after the win, after the victory, you step out of the cage. What were you jonesing for? Was it tortas? Is it jarritos? Like what was your pig out?
You know what? One thing I never cut out is mazapan. I always eat a mazapan through every single day on my wake up, and that's the first thing I eat is like chocolate, mazapan. I had a little jar of Nutella. I had a box of cookies with caramel. There's a store called Waldo's. It's like the Mexican 99 cent store, and I
Yeah,
just bought a bunch of cookies from there. Across the street, there's candy shops everywhere. There's candy shops everywhere here. So I just like the week before I went next door and I was like, I'm gonna buy these marshmallows. I'm gonna eat this. I basically just went on a sugar coma for like a couple of days. Sweets. That's my thing. It's sweet cookies and chocolate.
there you go. I mean, and it's funny because I mean the fact that it's in close proximity to the gym, it's one of those things where when you guys are all cutting weight and training, they probably are low in business. But the minute that you guys have your fights over out of the way, that's the first place that you guys are coming to. So
Yeah,
it's a smart business plan.
exactly. You know what? That's the thing about I like a lot about Tijuana is there's specific stores here. Like you go to the United States, there's stores of every like you go to a store, they're gonna have a little of this, a little of that. Over here, you want a nail, there's a store where it's nothing but nails. You want to buy paper, there's a store with nothing but paper. You want to buy candy, there's a store with nothing but candy. And there's everything's very like specific for that. And
Dude, I think you're going to get promoted to the travel commissioner or of TJ because you're convincing me to like screw it, screw the LA Reds. We just go to TJ.
exactly. Honestly, I like it a lot. If you're a person who likes shopping, buying little things here and there, like you know specifically what you want, and you're like in particular for one thing, there's a city for you. And you know what? There's really nice sections of TJ. They're like mansions, like Spanish Hills. They're like TJ has his own version of Spanish Hills, and the houses are humongous. You know. And then yeah, there's like dirt roads. Actually, funny story. Well, not so funny. I was coming out of practice. It was around 12. We have the big door in the back since the gym's closed. We have to open the big old door, the big old garage door, and close it back down every time. I open the door. I come out, and I just hear crack, 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 and it sounded like a car crash or gunshots. And I just see a car just pull out the alley like crazy. And I look over to the corner and I'm like, did they hit someone? I'm gonna go check out, make sure that like, everyone's okay. I go to the corner and ask some guy, I'm like, hey, what happened? And the guy, oh no, they just shot someone right here with a in the taxi. I'm like, what? Yeah, he goes, yeah, I was just standing here. The guy was just standing waiting, and the taxi pulls up to the corner, he just shoots him, boom, boom, kills him that blank, and just drives off. That's when I came out of the gym, and no one even cared. It was like everyone's like, "What happened?" And I told everyone what happened, and then they're like, 2 days later, everyone forgot that someone just got shot right here at 12 in the afternoon, right here in the corner of the gym. No one cared. It
And it
was
was just
weird.
business as usual, right? Just like whatever.
Yeah, because you know what? There's a lot of crime in TJ, but most of the time it's you're involved in something. It was just a random like no one felt like threatened, like they felt their safety was at risk because like I'm not getting involved in anything. They're not coming after me. They're coming after the person getting involved in something. So you know what? It is dangerous, but keep your nose clean out of stay out of business that you shouldn't be in, and you're fine. It's safe. it's a lot cheaper to live in TJ than it is in California. That's for sure.
Yeah,
You can
and
hear
I mean
that at the
that's
door. Someone's leaving the
yeah.
gym right now. That's the gym door.
Look at that. Like that's almost on time. That's on time. And Abby Lex says again, Arriba Tijuana. So there you go. And so after all of that, right?
Mhm.
You're obviously training and what have you, but what are the shows that you're watching? Obviously, like the rest of the world are in quarantine and we're looking for things to watch or whatever. What are you binge watching, or if you do any, like, what's your
Yeah.
favorite show right now or movie?
Right now, since I was cutting weight, and I just got the TV fixed. Our TV broke. It was an LED issue, very common thing. I went took it down to the corner. They fixed it, so I have Netflix now. But I was on my phone. I downloaded the Pluto app, and I was like, I was starving. I was starving. All I could think about was sweets, and I started binging British Best Bakeries, a contest where like they have all these like British bakeries and who can bake the best of this or that. And I probably watched about like 15, 20 hours of that.
That's great, dude. I'm with it. Whether it be like the bad baking shows like Nailed It, or
Yeah.
the little chefs or whatever. It'll just go on autoplay. Even if I'm doing something else or my wife is just doing something else, it'll just be on, and we'll just start like, oh my gosh, am I making cookies right now? And it's just like muscle. Like you're talking about muscle memory and whatever. It's just like we're watching it all day. We just go into the kitchen. We're just like baking, like whatever, you know.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I can bake. Like, oh, I'm an expert now. I could probably do that. And then like you try it, I'll try to do some. I'm not much of a cook. I'll try cooking a little bit. I'll completely screw it up. And well, I think it's the funniest part about the show since it's like British, so they have like a different undertone. Like you know how like Gordon Ramsay, oh, this is garbage. This is like he's real aggressive, but it's an American show. And there was a guy in one of the judges is trying to sound tough in the intro. He goes, "I'm looking for people who do their job with care and love," but it's like he's trying to
Yeah,
sound aggressive and goes, "I'm looking at people who do this with care and love," trying to like, and it always throws me off like how they're trying to sound tough, but they're not. They're like real like more gentle show, and yeah,
yeah,
that's another thing is the British run their shows is completely different than the way we do it, and it's I think there's less hatred and more satire to it.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, we need a little bit more satire in our lives. And I mean, it's funny because my mom is Fijian, right? So it's still a British Commonwealth, and I was affectionately known. Her pet name for me was like bloody shit. So the British do things a little bit different.
Yeah, ever since I started watching that British show, I started like watching like things on like British life, British culture. I watched this British guy who lives in Tokyo, and he tells you the difference between living in Britain and living in Tokyo. And yeah, it's a different the TV, the way they promote things to us, and the way we view things is completely different from country to country, and just the way they feed us the way we want to feel. Like if you go to Japan, everything's positivity and so funny, so funny, and they'll just always have someone right there in the corner, like right here. I can see your little sign right there in the corner. It'll be someone reacting to whatever's
Right.
going on. Nothing but hyping up the product. Nothing but positivity. There's no aggression. There's no this is bloody garbage. And
Yeah, yeah,
it
and
might have
the
something
cultural
to do with this.
differences. The cultural differences are pretty stark. When you get into like what even a game show is. In Colombia versus here in the States, or in Mexico or in Japan. It's just like what the people find funny is completely different.
Yeah, you know what? In Mexican TV, there is really black and white. Everything's black and white. You know who the bad guy is. You know who the good person is. The good person is never gonna do something that is off-putting, that puts them in a dark light, and the bad person is always gonna have agreed. It's always gonna be. There's no in between. There's no gray. area, and I think that's has to do a lot with the culture in Mexico. You just do what you're told. You don't question it. There's good and there's wrong, and there's no in between. There's no gray area in this culture.
And that's a really cool cultural identity, because you often know where people stand with you, or you don't. It's very salt of the earth, earnest people. And that's what I love about growing up in and around the Mexican culture here in Greater Los Angeles. I can only imagine what it must be to be home in Mexico and experience it firsthand.
Yeah, you know what? It was weird. Most of the time, when you in the United States or United States, Mexicans that speak Spanish are usually older, and since they migrate over there, they're very uneducated. So when I came down here and I started speaking to younger Mexican people who spoke primarily Spanish, and it was weird talking to someone in Spanish who is extremely educated, who is well spoken, who has real modern views of what's going on in the world, as opposed to the older generation in the United States that they went over there because they weren't very educated and they couldn't afford to get a better job than labor. And over here, it wasn't working for them, so they migrated over there. Anyway, it does feel nice to speak to people in Spanish who can enlighten me more on like what it's like in the Spanish world in Latin America.
No, it's incredible. And again, these are things that we're kind of told because we're kind of insulated, right? We know what we know from, whether it be school or government or whatever, but then actually getting to the place, and kind of seeing what it's about, you get a greater appreciation for it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate Mexico a lot more now that I've been here. It really is a great country, and it's not what they make it seem in TV. Like there's violence going on everywhere. I mean, there's violence here, but like I said, someone got killed in the corner in the mid afternoon, and everyone's like, "Well, it doesn't involve us," and well, it doesn't really. We don't feel like the violence is gonna come to us. In a sense, it's like they keep it amongst themselves. And another thing is like if you go into the little towns, like where my dad was living, he said there was a bunch of hoodlums everywhere, just jacking, robbing the place. All of a sudden, those people started waking up dead in the ditch. There was a ditch. There was a ditch by his house, and he says those people started waking up dead. And all of a sudden, there's no more robberies in the area. There's no more hoodlums. There's no more druggies going around breaking into things, doing this and that. Some cartel or someone cleaned out the area, and that's what happens in these towns. Like if you go to a little pueblo, the cartels they don't mess with you, but if you're running around, running amok, the cartels kind of clean house in their little area. They have to clean their little. They call it a plaza, running the plaza. So if you're in charge of the plaza and someone's making your plaza look bad, that looks bad on you. You gotta clean that up.
Wow, it's a system.
Yeah, it's a system. So like the cartels, yeah, drugs and killing and all that, it ain't good. But they kind of, if you're not involved in anything you shouldn't involve, they leave you alone. And if you're running amok in their area and they're not liking it, you're gonna wake up dead.
Dang. Yeah. I mean, but that's the order of life, and, the better that you can adapt to any particular situation, you end up being better because of it. And speaking of things that make you better, if I were to look into, Abraham Nava's like workout playlist, what is the things that you're listening to make you better? Are there podcasts or music that you kind of getting into?
You know what? There's this speech by Art Williams. He goes, "Just do it." I've heard that like over 100 times. The Strangest Seeker in the World by Earl Nightingale. I listened to that one a bunch of times. And obviously, there's your power jams you gotta listen to. The Rocky soundtrack always works for me.
Yeah, I'm here. Something happened. My bad. You're there. No, but you were
That's
saying
okay.
what you were listening to?
All right. So yeah, I mean, you got your motivational. So I listen to my typical motivational ones. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I listen to that one a lot. And that's like I mentioned earlier about everything he did. And then you got your power songs. You got Back County, Avenged Sevenfold. You got your System of a Down. As a wrestler, System of a Down and Red Hot Chili Peppers are always gonna be in your track because you grew up listening to that. Like in the wrestling world, those are like the anthems to wrestling. Those two bands.
Yeah, dang right. That's System of a Down, man. I'm in my mid 30s, so that was like the music of my high school years. Same thing with the Chili Peppers, and it was really kind of cool. I can't remember what CXF it was, but at CXF in Studio City when they used to run the Sportsman's Lodge, and I believe Benji fought on there once. But
I
Anthony Kiedis actually, yeah, Anthony Kiedis actually came to a show because like he had substance abuse issues. It's kind of readily known, and so did Chase Gibson, who was CXF champion at the time. So they met at this kind of AA group and whatever. And when Anthony heard that Chase was a fighter, he's like, "When's your next fight?" He's like, "Oh, in a couple weeks." And it's just like, "Okay, I'm coming." And so Anthony Kiedis was at CXF, like only maybe like 1,500 people and Anthony Kiedis versus going to a Chili Pepper show where they go to like stadiums. But here you were like face to face with Anthony Kiedis. It was like super cool. MMA and my love for like rock music kind of merged in the best possible way.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. And I wonder what the pressure must have been like. Oh, this guy came to watch me. And I'm like, I can't lose for sure because then I'm gonna look bad. Like, as such a high level star who went out of their way for me, and I'm like, if I were to lose, like, how would I look?
Yeah,
Like, it must
yeah,
because I amped up the pressure on them.
yeah. The pressure's not good, but luckily, Chase. I mean, he pretty much tore through his opponent. And that was I think his last fight before he ended up signing with Combate. So you know,
Mm.
so he handles pressure pretty well, much like yourself. But obviously we kind of alluded to the people that kind of got you there. You won in the last few weeks in this COVID situation. Let's shout out some of the people that kind of help you get here, sponsors, family members. This is your time to shine, my man, so let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Well, like my buddy Alex, he gave us a couple of shout outs. Anytime I need like some kind of supply run from up north, he'll bring it down here. Like if I need to send something up there, he'll stop by real quickly, grab whatever I need, and send it back up. And my wife too. I need an oven, she'll bring me an oven. I need I need some supplements. I can't find them here. She'll bring me some supplements. Um, my shirts, I got them made down here, but I had my wife edit my logo so I can have it made onto these little Power Ranger style shirts. Let me see if I can get the little logo in there.
That's
See,
sick.
she edited the logo, and yeah, my mom and my wife always had they always supported me whenever I needed. It's like it's like you can't always work when you're fighting, so there'll be times I wasn't working, and my wife will cover all the bills, and she'll like go a little extra way. She'll make all my meals. Cutting weight's a lot easier when I have my wife. To be honest, she'll cook me. She'll cook every meal for me. They'll be healthy. It'll be full. With me, I just get some vegetables, get water, and just boil vegetables, and that's all I'm eating. Boiled broccoli with onions. And obviously, my team, Raul, saying this gym, like always being there for the fighters. You need anything? I try not to ask him for too much, or I try to, kind of take care of myself. But if he feels that you need anything, he's always there. He's always offering. He's always willing to hand out for you. And obviously, fighting when I was in the United States, I had my coach Joe. You know Joe, and Joe was he was like a father to his fighters too. Always taking him everywhere. Like we were young, we didn't have money or anything. He'll cover us all. he's the one who taught me, you gotta push it. You gotta push it. You can't feel sorry for yourself. No one's gonna feel sorry for you. Like you just gotta keep going. Like you throw up. I remember one time I was sparring and I'm like, hey Joe, I gotta throw up. He goes, that's your problem. Keep going. I just start throwing up and he starts yelling at me. He goes, quit being so dramatic. I'm like, hey bro, I can't stop throwing up and I just keep on throwing up. And then he got someone to clean it up and goes, all right, cool, keep going. And then like you gotta keep on going. I just kept throwing up some more. But it was that mentality. It's like, yeah, you can't feel sorry for you. Yeah, you can't keep going, push it. Doesn't matter. That's your problem. Just keep going, keep going. And if it really wasn't for Joe, I'd be where I'd be at today. I don't train with him now, but it's kind of like you see Star Wars, right? The hero's journey.
Right.
Obi-Wan had to die for Anakin to be able to become Anakin. So I had to go off on my own. Since I was 18, Joe be like, "You're gonna fight this event at this weight," and then like, "You gotta start cutting on this day," and he'll tell me when to do it, so I wouldn't have to like go out of my way looking for fights. I wouldn't like. He would always tell me when I was gonna do it, and then I'll just have to do it. And he'll be like, "Okay, you're gonna train this hour, you're gonna train this hour, you're gonna train that hour." So I'll be training the times he'll tell me to train. I'll be like, "Oh, you gotta do this much cardio." I'll do that cardio. And now it's kind of like I'm on my own. I got to do it myself. Like cardio is on me. My weight is on me. As far as fights go, I just got to keep asking coach and be like, hey, look, you got these options. Which one do you want to take? If you want to take it, and it's part of the hero's journey. You have the person that teaches you, that guides you, and shows you how to become who you are. At a certain point, Obi-Wan had to die for Anakin to become Anakin, for him to be able to beat Darth Vader.
Dang right, man. And that's a pretty cool, scenario that you've got so many people supporting you. But I mean, for those who haven't, and I don't know why they haven't, but for those who want to support Abraham Nava and his career thus far, where can they find you on social media? And also shout out the YouTube show because I've been enjoying it.
Okay. Oh, you seen the Honey Badger, the Chronicles, the Savage Chronicles?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I do it with this little phone. It's an old phone, so it doesn't get very good sound quality, and I had to like improvise. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put on some music and let the music tell the story instead. It's kind of like a little background show. Someone's leaving the gym again. It's kind of a little background show. Like you can put it on and you go do some cleaning, and you can just, like glimpse at it. And it has a like a relaxing vibe to it. The Savage Chronicles on YouTube. I'm gonna be adding some more videos now, and it should be more consistent. You can find me at Honest Abe 4.7 on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active. I kind of stay off of Facebook, like. Yeah, I go on Facebook for 5 minutes. I'm like, I come out just like depressed, like nothing but problems and issue and hatred on Facebook. So I kind of just deleted the app from my phone and I only go on it when I have to. And life's been a lot better ever since I decided to delete Facebook. It's just so much negativity. I kind of tend to stay off of it. And yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
working
good
right
to
now with
decompress.
805. Mm-hmm. And right now, actually, I'm working with 805 Sportswear, and it's a new sponsor of mine. And they're gonna be helping me produce some more clothing and maybe some shorts, some more shirts, some sweaters. And if you want to support, I still got a couple shirts left over for anyone who wants to get one. And like I said, on Instagram, you guys can always find me at honest.abe 4.7.
There it is. Well, Abraham, thank you again. It's really cool to kind of, be here. I've seen so many of your fights up close and personal. You're
Yeah.
obviously going through new things in your life, and you're persevering through it with flying colors, man. So all the best to you, dude. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the platform you allow me to tell my story. Oftentimes, people don't get to tell their side of the story, what's going on in their world, and I appreciate it a lot from you, sir.
Oh, we appreciate you, my man. But this has been According to Woods with Abraham Nava, and we are out. Thank you, beautiful people, for joining us.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good one.